Well, hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today, where we'll be talking about career inclusive employment policies, a strategy for small and medium-sized business success. And we have a number of our guest speakers here who will be able to share their experiences and their expertise. So I'd like to start by recognizing our land acknowledgement as McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario recognizes and acknowledges that it's located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and the Haudenosaunee Nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. I did want to mention our funders. So this current webinar, as well as the former two webinars and the various other outcomes, has been funded by the Social Science and Humanities Research Council of Canada via a connection grant entitled Disseminating Tools for the Creation of Care-Friendly Workplaces in Canada. So my name is Allison Williams, and I'm the principal investigator of a large program of research that basically scales up care-friendly workplaces in Canada and internationally. And we've also built quite a bit of evidence for why we need care supports within the workplace through evidence we've garnered specific to the negative health and well-being outcomes that care employees experience in managing these multiple roles. Next slide. We also have a guest speaker, Cindy Diago, who is the CEO and co-founder of Console Incorporated. And she also has quite a few decades of experience working in human resources. So is a wonderful expert and resource person for exploring this particular phenomenon for small and medium-sized workplaces. Next slide. And then we have Caregivers Alberta featured as our second guest speaker. We'll have both Daryl Gregory, who's the executive director, and Jonah Lauer from, again, the Caregivers Alberta, speaking about the programming that they've been doing. And we look forward to hearing about their work. So just a few minutes to explore why this phenomenon is one that we need to be concerned about. Certainly, it matters to small and medium-sized enterprises, given that care employees in Canada make up 30% of our workforce. They're often invisible and they feel very closeted and unable to self-identify within the workplace. So that really speaks to the importance of us addressing this issue, bringing about the culture change required in order to ensure that our leaders, supervisors, managers, HR professionals are trained up and knowledgeable about care employees and consequently allow care employees to self-identify and ask for the resources and the supports they need. And for those leaders within the workplace to be able to respond appropriately in providing the supports required in order to retain the most experienced workforce, because we know that care employees are the most well-trained and experienced workforce, given that they are generally over the age of 45. After I speak a little bit about why it matters, we'll be having our guest speakers. Each are given a 10-minute window to present their material, and then we'll end up with a few resources as far as how employers can create care-friendly workplaces. So just a little bit about small and medium-sized enterprises. We know that as of December 2023, there was 1.10 million employer businesses in Canada that identify as SMEs. And we know that 98% of those were classified as small businesses with fewer than 100 employees. And 1.5 were medium-sized, between 100 and 499 employees. Next slide. So the small business owner is really, again, a critical component of our economy here in Canada, and especially so given the political economic challenges that we're currently facing in this new economic order. When we talk about the business case, around why we need to support carer employees, we're really recognizing, as I mentioned, the importance of keeping them employed for, again, reduced absenteeism, reduced presenteeism, reduced turnover, increased productivity, improved job satisfaction, and cost savings. So when we think about reduced turnover, clearly, if we're able to retain these folks within the workplace, then we're not having to pay for the turnover costs specific to training new employees. When we talk about reduced absenteeism and reduced presenteeism, which are basically people coming to work but not really working, they're very distracted. So we want to have them come to work able to bring their best foot forward and being as productive as possible. We have, again, improved productivity with the workforce that are, again, supported. And that allows them to increase their job satisfaction and their well-being overall, which again is shown in uses specific to benefits and leaves and disability and so forth. And so we've done some ROI work that speaks to every dollar invested in flex time. Shows a return on investment ranging from $1.70 to $4.34, depending upon the sector and the type of flex time that's implemented. Next slide. We also recognize that care inclusive policies strengthen company reputation. So, we talk about, the top 100 companies in Canada or, the top 400 companies in a particular region. When we provide career supports, it really strengthens company reputation because employees talk about it. It also provides employers the opportunity to apply for awards of recognition in order to enhance an employer brand image, as well as allow, again, increased recruitment and retention because it attracts a very diverse and interested talent pool. Many in the finance sector, for example, and the tech sector do just this in order to recruit the best and the brightest. It also allows SMEs to align with an evolving workforce demographic because we know that as the population ages, more employees will have caregiving responsibilities specific to, for example, caring for spouses, caring for elderly family members, friends, and neighbors. And so when giving attention to care inclusive policies, you're really being very proactive in recognizing that this is a tsunami that's going to hit us, if not already, and consequently being prepared puts us in a position of being able to put our best business foot forward. Next slide. So we've done quite a bit of research around the negative impacts of care employees who are not supported. And certainly we recognize that fatigue and burnout often shows up, which often leads to mental health, psychological health risks, which unfortunately then spiral down to physical health outcomes, negative physical health outcomes. So that has some negative impacts, not only on the employer, clearly, given again the costs of turnover, but it also has a significant impact on the carer employee, because when they lose work, they not only lose their income, but often their pension, their benefit package, but they often lose their sense of meaning, their sense of belonging, and their social support system, as well as their opportunities for professional and personal development. So there's a lot of losses that occur when carer employees are not supported. Next slide. So again, the data specific to Stats Canada General Social Survey shows that, again, there's quite a bit of strain being felt by carer employees. We have 46% experiencing presenteeism, for example, 40% reporting fair or poor mental health. We have 33% reporting poor physical health outcomes, and 6% leaving or intending to leave the workforce altogether, which is exactly what we don't want to have happen for both, again, the benefit of the employer as well as the benefit of the carer employee. And so, again, this is a very kind of snowball effect. First, it's the fatigue and the burnout, which then moves into mental health outcomes, and then finally physical health outcomes. And this is where, again, we see employees either leaving the workforce or applying for leaves or potentially disability. Next slide. Okay, so Cindy, your opportunity to share your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting to be here and appreciate all the data that you shared as well. So hi, I'm Cindy. I'm the co-founder of Console, which is a workplace caregiver support benefit, and someone who spent nearly 20 years in people and culture and talent acquisition, helping organizations build teams, policies and workplaces that are really centered around human first. So today I'm going to zero in on caregiving in the workplace, some of my experiences in building care inclusive workplaces, and what employers can realistically do from a compliance, culture, and retention perspective. So I know from my experiences, the first thing in changing and adding in policies or different processes is making the business case. And so a lot of the data that I'd like to share is really some of the data that you can take to your executives in, why this is a business imperative. So of course we shared, Allison shared that 1 in 3 employees in North America is currently caring for someone with a complex need. Of course, that's 30% of your workforce. When you count elder care, partners with illness, children with additional needs, and mental health related support. But a lot of those employees are not identifying as caregivers for the fear of the stigma and the bias that potentially can come with it. Significantly, women especially have trouble identifying because they don't want to seem like they've either been mommy tracked, is one of the terms that we used, so not committed to their role. But this is showing up in your workplaces. And so it's not just a personal issue, it is organizational. So according to the Canadian Standards Association, undressed caregiver stress, of course, leads to, as we heard from Alison, higher absenteeism, lower productivity, and talent loss. And this productivity due to care-related absenteeism globally is estimated to be in the hundreds of billions. So there's quite significant loss in productivity, and of course, the retention and replacing those employees. Mid-career women, especially your future executives, are leaving the workplace, not from obviously lack of ambition, but lack of the infrastructure to be able to support this very large demographic in your workplace. So a couple things to be aware of. First, I'll talk about, the must-knows, so the things that you do have to know as you are building these processes, some of the best practices and some examples that I can share with you of other organizations who've implemented these strategies or tools. And of course, quick wins. I saw that a lot of organizations on this call today are small to medium organizations. And so, of course, overhauling completely might not be feasible for you, but there are some quick wins here. So your must-knows, compliance basics. So across Canada, family status, you should know, is protected under human rights laws. Employers do have a duty to accommodate caregiving needs to the point of undue hardship. So this was made clear in a case a couple of years back where an employee working asked for consistent hours to accommodate childcare, and the employer said no, and the court disagreed with them. So it is setting precedent that you do have to accommodate. So the takeaway here is if caregiving affects someone's ability to work, it of course is not personal, it's protected. Under employment standards, and I think someone else will cover this as well today, you do have job protected leaves. In Ontario, for example, we do have family caregiver leaves. That's unpaid weeks per family member. And then you do have your critical illness leave, your compassion care leave, and your emergency care leave that you have to or should build into your policy toolkit. So as long as your policies are incorporating these, and your employees should know that they exist as well, that's where to start. Something to be mindful here as well is the occupational health and safety. So the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety now does identify psychological hazards, including caregiver stress, as a workplace concern. So that burnout from the invisible load is an employee liability. So what are some things that we can do, and what are some things that we can start to enact for a culture that really focuses on equity as well? So because we're saying losing great talent, what that often means is we didn't create an environment where we could be honest about what we were carrying. So flexibility is one start. It's not a perk. It's really about equity. We've heard about hybrid and flexible work. I know that there's a push-pull in organizations these days to bring people back. It's actually causing a bit of a disruption for caregivers who had that flexibility during the pandemic. But this is really just not a nice to have. It is a survival infrastructure for caregivers. So for example, a company that I know moved their daily stand-ups from 9 a.m. to 10:30 because parents were stressed because of school drop-offs. That's a small shift that you can do that has zero impact on productivity, but it completely changed the morale of that particular company, and it's an easy fix. Another example that you could start off by doing is letting employees block off what you call buffer days. So per month, where no internal meetings are booked, this creates space for them to handle life without needing to take formal leave. So tip here isn't just to offer flexibility, it's to co-create different options with your team, normalize their use. So managers should be modeling these behaviors as well, and really to start avoiding penalizing people who take these. Flexibility without psychological permission is really just that lip service that we're not doing justice for our employees. And start to talk about caregiving out loud and without stigma. This one's really personal to me. When I did have a caregiving when I had my son, I unfortunately really didn't want to come back into the workplace. I had interviews, and I didn't want to tell people that I was a new mother. So start to have those conversations with your employees. If your culture responds with silence, or worse, subtle side eyes, they'll stop talking to you, and eventually they'll burn out. So what can you do? And this, of course, you can start questions in onboarding. And these are all they can be anonymous. You don't want to call people out directly, but are you managing responsibilities outside of work that you should be aware of, that we can do to better support you? Mention caregiving in team meetings, your surveys, your ERGs, employee resource groups, which I'll talk about in a minute too, and your wellness programs. If you celebrate things like Pride, consider celebrating Parents' Day and adding Cares Weeks to the calendar too. And if you're nervous about opening the floodgates, that's good. That means you're about to uncover real needs, and you can start to support your employees. And the last thing on this one is train your managers to respond, not to retreat. So managers are really the front line of your culture, and they're the ones that are most likely to misread what's going on. When performance dips, when someone's off camera, when there's small errors, managers assume that that's disengagement. But what if it's not a lack of motivation? What if it's decision fatigue from juggling care at home or a child's therapy? So the fix here isn't complex. It's giving your managers the language to gently ask, is there something going on outside of work that's adding pressure? And how can we provide that flexibility to you? So permission to flex, to have that flex policy with compassion and the confidence that they'll start to develop to escalate and lean on you for that extra support. So one company that I have worked with used a pause and ask playbook for managers, which is a one-pager with burnout signs, empathetic prompts, and flexible response options. It turns that vague concern into real conversations to help retain those senior executives and those leaders that are in your company. And then a bonus here is, of course, understanding who's close to burnout in your organization. Ask your team to list all of those extra tasks that they may have on their plate. Delegate it to others if that can help them offload a little bit as well. So some quick wins and what you can do. Add questions to your next engagement survey. And again, these should be anonymous, but easy, simple questions like, do you currently provide care for a family member or loved one? That opens the door without needing them to label themselves if they're not ready. Audit your policies for the word caregiver. Add a line in, even if it's something like, we recognize some employees may have caregiving responsibilities and we're committed to flexibility when possible. And share free resources. Of course, McMaster's free caregiver work friendly workplaces course is one of them. Cares Canada has toolkits as well. And update your onboarding materials. Even a simple sentence like, we know the team members may be managing caregiving responsibilities and we're here and committed to supporting them. And the last one here is building an ERG for caregivers, so an employee resource group. So ERGs aren't just about identifying, they're about really creating that sense of belonging. It's easy to start an employee caregiver resource group, and it reduces the stigma. It opens space for resource sharing within that group, story swapping and policy shaping, and it creates the visibility that this is valued and this is normal. So how to start one? Send a company-wide note, ask who's interested in forming a small advisory circle, give them permission to do this. It can be scrappy. Invite executive sponsors, give it airtime at all hands meetings, and even a Slack channel or a Teams channel that supports that is family support, so that your employees can start to lean on each other for resources and support as well. So in closing, supporting caregivers or those balancing big responsibilities at home isn't just a feel-good bonus anymore. It really is a compliance requirement, a culture amplifier, and a retention strategy, and a key to unlocking gender equity and mental health in the workplace as well, especially in small businesses and fast-growing teams where every single hire does matter. Making space for the reality of people's lives really is the future of work. So you can start small, you can make it visible, and you shouldn't wait for a crisis to show where the cracks are as well in your organization. So that's a little bit from my experiences in human resources and people and culture teams, what is a requirement and some of the best practices and quick wins for you.
Fabulous. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing those excellent points and wonderful ideas. I really like the employee resource group idea, which is kind of what we propose with respect to the career inclusive and accommodating workplace standard. It's basically a committee that gets together. It's a sort of on the ground, bottom up committee that then, builds the momentum to have the workplace actually create some of these policies that very clearly articulated. So really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Next slide. So we'll move on to our next set of presenters, Daryl Gregory and Jonah Lothar from the Caregivers Alberta Group. Welcome, Daryl and Jonah.
Hi, thank you for having us, Allison. Yes, so Daryl and I are sharing our little 10-minute slot here, so I'll start our presentation with a few slides. Next slide, please. We are a nonprofit charitable organization in Alberta serving family and friend caregivers. And so we know that, of the over 1 million caregivers in Alberta, 630,000 of those are employed caregivers. And they're providing 400 million hours of unpaid care annually on top of paid work responsibilities. So we know the juggling act is real, and we see the burnout and overwhelm in the caregivers that come to us, for our programs and services. We also recognize the economic value of the care that they are providing. It's estimated at $6.8 billion. So as a nonprofit agency, we again are serving these caregivers through one-on-one and group programs, trying to, empower and uplift them in their role. But we are also advocating for the recognition of caregivers in all environments. So whether that's healthcare, social care, but also in the workplace. Next slide, please. And so we are doing that by working with employers across sectors. So whether that's for-profit or non-for-profit, to bring recognition to caregivers in the workplace. And you can see on screen here, we have a program called Work and Care, which is about creating those caregiver-friendly workplaces, and it's addressing, many of the topics that you've already heard about and will continue to hear about today. And our working care program consists of 9 different a la carte options of learning for employers. These are live facilitated sessions, like mini education opportunities that can be done in person or virtual. And we've made them a la carte knowing that workplaces are at different stages in building caregiver friendly cultures. But it is our goal to partner with our Albertan employers to not just drive recognition of the importance of supporting caregivers in the workplace, but to know that we are an important resource for employed caregivers. Our mandate is to serve the family and friend caregiver, but in order to do that, we are doing other work, in partnering with agencies and businesses and service providers, again, to create these caregiver friendly environments overall. So our programs and services can be a benefit and a real value add to the resources and the education opportunities that employers are offering staff, especially through the lens of programming for employee wellness. But so you can see on screen there the different topics that we sort of touch on. And again, they're, little mini 45-minute to 60-minute facilitated sessions that we are doing with employers. And, you know, that's it. This is the work that we are attempting to do around generating caregiver friendly workplaces in Alberta, and to drive that awareness around the need to support employed caregivers. So I just wanted to let everyone know that, this is some of the things that we're doing in this space. And now I'm going to turn it over to our executive director at Caregivers Alberta, Daryl Gregory, to talk about what we are doing in-house to create our own caregiver friendly workplace.
Thanks, Jonna. Uh, yeah, so just so you know, in our organization, the way that our working care program works, Jonna is primarily responsible for the curriculum and design of the program. My role is essentially to implement the program in a sort of global sense in the province and ensure that we are creating a culture and we have a strategy to support workplaces to develop care-friendly workplaces. As a matter of fact, I'm going to Calgary tomorrow to our program seems to be getting more traction here in Alberta. I'm going to Calgary tomorrow. We're facilitating our working care program to an organization in Calgary. So looking forward to that. I was at a think tank yesterday for the Alberta Continuing Care Association. These are all the operators of long-term care facilities in Alberta. And one of the operators mentioned something that was a surprise to me, that caregiver burnout in those long-term care spaces is affecting staff wellness, staff burnout. And I did not know that. We know that caregiver burnout, caregiver wellness is closely correlated to the wellness of their care recipient. But this was really enlightening for me. And I know that may not be your sector or your workplace, but I just want to share that to underline sort of this symbiotic relationship between caregiving and workplaces. Um, so I'm not going to go through all of these, right? I just want, but all of these flexible work arrangements that we have implemented are not going to work in every sector, right? If you are a barista at Starbucks or you are behind the counter of a bank, it is difficult to implement a lot of these job sharing, flexible work arrangements that we have implemented that work for us. Um, and I also want to emphasize that Cindy underlined the importance of creating policies and accommodations in our workplace policies, and that is important. But I want to share something that was articulated by a high-level executive in a major bank. This individual was on our working care advisory panel. He spoke at our conference last fall, and he said, really, the most important thing is creating space for dialogue, for employees to know that they can safely speak to their supervisor about their care roles, and really emphasizing the fact that this needs to be done as early as possible. Don't come to your supervisor when you're at the 11th hour and you're in crisis, because then it is very difficult to create some sort of plan to help you. So early is always better. And it's not always about money. We had a staff person who left Caregivers Alberta, one of our coaches, went to take on a director role in a continuing care facility and came back. That what was going on in that organization did not work for her and did not align with her values as a working caregiver. And so, yeah, she came back to Caregivers Alberta because of, I think, the culture that we have created here. So it does pay dividends. It does show up. There is a business case to create caregiver friendly workplaces. Next slide. I'll just mention a couple things. Um, so for I'm not going to go through all of the benefits of investing in employees, but for us, just we cannot afford to lose a team member. When we lose a caregiver coach, it can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to find the right person and get them trained up, go through their shadowing, and then be supporting clients. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything on the front end. And yeah, my own experience as a leader in this space is, after several years of working in this sector, is to share that um, yeah, it is. This is the difficult stuff you have to deal with, right? But it pays off. I have seen it over and over again. You will end up, when you create a culture where carers are supported, your those employees will also support each other. It all doesn't have to rely on you as an employee resource group or as an HR professional. Um, Look to the organizations in your province, like Caregivers Alberta, in Ontario, in BC, in Nova Scotia, that have organizations like ours that provide these programs. We are here to do that for you. Governments are recognizing the important role, the importance of supporting carers in the workplace. It has an economic repercussion when these folks are leaving the workplace, as was already mentioned, right? So we need to make sure that those employees are not leaving and that they are contributing to the economy and to their workplaces. And so I just want to end by mentioning there are other organizations, as I mentioned. Get to know who they are in your province. And I think that is it for me.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much, Jonah and Daryl, for sharing your experience and your excellent work and moving this idea forward throughout Alberta. Wonderful thoughts around the care and work program being a la carte. I love that idea. So an employer can actually just go to sort of, the hot spot or the pain point that they need to have addressed right away, because we know that often employers, particularly in SMEs, are often time starved as well as resource starved. So really nice to see that efficiency. Just wanted to share a few resources that our team has been working on over the past few years. McMaster University partnered with the Canadian Standards Association to build a standard, which was published in 2017, called the Care Inclusive and Accommodating Organization Standard. It's basically a guidebook for how workplaces can, in fact, build care supports and specifically a program that is care friendly. There's also a package that can be downloaded free of charge, which includes a handbook. And the handbook is a very user-friendly guide, which includes case studies that really exemplifies the significance of care-friendly workplaces and care supports more broadly. So certainly take a scan of the QR code so you can download the package and be able to use these free resources in your workplace. Just wanted to specifically outline very quickly what the standard suggests and it has in fact been addressed by Cindy as well as Caregivers Alberta as far as first building the foundation of a program, which not only means establishing leadership, but engaging workers from the bottom up, and then putting the program into practice by first doing an environmental scan, identifying where the gaps are, and then finding what is currently working if there are some supports already in place before establishing a more fulsome program, and then being sure to monitor progress through measurement and evaluation for further development and progress. And these are a few more ideas within those three main steps, which you can certainly review in the slide video that's shared after our meeting. Next slide. And then we also wanted to share with you the online course that we built and unveiled last year with McMaster Continuing Education called the Creating Caregiver Friendly Workplaces. It's a 10-hour course directly targeted to employers as well as HR professionals and occupational health and safety professionals. And what the course does is basically takes the learner through a number of different modules to basically build out a set of care-friendly workplace supports and uses the standard and the guidebook as the basis for the evolution of such a program. There's also the opportunity to get a micro-credential for those professions that are interested in continuing education or the requirement to do continuing education each year. So again, this is a free resource. These are some of the website tabs, which is our third primary resource that we'd like to share with you today. We have a wide range of additional tools and resources, including how to, for example, identify burnout. We also have occupational health and safety posters and a wide range of tools and resources for folks to be able to access, again, free of charge. They're free downloads off our website. So certainly take advantage of them as you move forward in your journey in supporting the care employees that make up 1/3 of your workforce. And we certainly are more than happy to support and assist. Just reach out. And we wish you the best of success on your journey. Thank you so much, everybody, for your attention, and a very special thank you to our guest speakers today, Cindy from Console, Daryl and Jonah from Caregivers Alberta. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise and your programming with everyone here today. And I'm sure we'll see an uptake in care supports as a result. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye now.